Okay, welcome back, everybody. What's going on? Podcast and chill, the new Quinto experience podcast edition with my good friend Adam Marsters. Welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Pretty good, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Look like you did your hair.
Yeah, we might have had a problem with that.
You're looking good, man. You losing weight or what? What are you on now? You on the cream? The juice?
Just doing a little 21-day fix.
Vegetarian now?
Little lifetime? No, still eating lots of meat.
Good for you, man. Looking good. You're shining.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, right on time because, of course, you know this now. Like, Adam is obviously regular on the podcast and chill and the Nobodies podcast with me. Something that we really enjoyed and we miss because we can't get together. But now, hence why we have the YouTube channel, the podcast and chill show. And how do you like being on Zoom so far?
Oh, I love it. This is amazing. I'm just glad to be back talking with my buddy here.
I know it's been a while. So thanks for coming on. Glad to have you back. And my first question that I want to pose, he asked me, he's like, do you have something to talk about? Come on, this is me you're asking. So my first question, is how are you coping? How are you dealing it? What's your routine like? Have you been working, waiting to get back? I know I can't wait to get back. It's been 4 weeks now, so.
Yeah, I just like everyone else, can't wait to get back. Yeah, I got cut on the second essential list when he came out with the second cuts.
Oh, but you made the second cut.
Yeah, I was essential for a minute or two.
Even Michael Jordan got cut from his team. High school team.
That's awesome. So we're doing fine. We're just, worried as usual about, family and whatnot, but just got to do your part, stay home. And and hopefully everything will pass over sooner than later. But if you don't stay home, then it probably won't.
Well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing about I guess not funny thing, but when the essential list came out, so I do recall it was like the Thursday before March break. And that was the announcement. They're going to extend March break, essentially keep kids out of school for another 2 weeks. So 3 weeks total. And then I think the following week, it was Monday. Trudeau was 45 minutes late for his presser. Had to throw that in. Had to throw that in there. And
meanwhile, he was at home.
You're shutting it down.
Yeah, I think Canada did a great job at taking advantage of that extra long spring break. It probably was one of the biggest things that flattened the curve at the start. I personally believe the quicker we got on it is why we're in such better shape than we could be. Is a better way to say it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the numbers certainly show that, though. I mean, we have to be careful too. I mean, our population is much less. Canada's a relatively new country. So, we are, I guess, a little bit more and better equipped. We have universal health care. There's, like when I think of Italy, and I'll say this time and again, that's one of the oldest populations, Northern Italy. A lot of cultural stuff going on there. They were ill prepared.
But
there's a lot of the 60 million people in such a small area. And like, if you think of Canada, like our density is nowhere near that.
Oh yeah, but if we would have came out with that mentality and thinking, we could have been in a terrible spot. But I'm just proud that we did do that. And now we have time to focus on areas that other countries don't have a time to focus on.
Yeah.
Like now they're moving and allocating stuff to different areas that are getting hit harder, like nursing homes and stuff like that. Other countries like U.S., Italy, France, Spain, they didn't have that option because they were just so overrun in the hospitals. And once again, that goes back to your point of people per capita, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm glad we got on it, so now we don't have, like, we could probably start opening up in end of May, middle of May. Probably the essential worker list will go back to the first set of rules and then
phase back into. Yeah, it makes sense. Actually, I was looking at 3 phases of return for the United States. Trump administration had released some like infographics, and it was children will still stay at home, no visits to nursing homes, but you'll have a little bit more expansion of the essential list, including like eating at restaurants and elective surgeries and going to the gym.
Yes. Make America great again.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing I wanted to ask you. Okay, so what are your thoughts on how quickly Canada moved, how quickly or how slowly the move of the United States is perceived to be? Because certainly it's a different mentality. Like, there they want to carry on business as usual. Business is at the forefront of everything there, right? Where here, arguably, business takes a back seat, and I think that's the difference in administration, the conservative nature of Canadians. Do you think the Americans move too slow?
I definitely agree. They moved way too slow. Like, there's a lot of things, like, you can call them conspiracies, but when he says he shut down travel to China and nobody did it, there's other countries that already shut down travel to China, and there were still Chinese people coming into the country on different flights.
The same goes
on
for
different
Cuba.
flights. Because you shut down flights from China, they just get on United Air and come into, and they've got proof of it. It's just, I could say I'm doing a good job every day. Meanwhile, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, you got the camera on you, and it's like this guy took a 3-hour break. But even here, when they had announced the travel ban, there were still flights coming in on the day that it was announced, and it's like, okay, when are you? It was always like they gave the last chance. I remember seeing a post on Twitter of like 3 flights from China on the day or the day following when they announced the travel ban to and from Canada. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, you can announce it, but when are we going to enforce it? So all I'm saying is across the board, people have mixed emotions about it. But even though Canadians, okay, maybe collectively we move quicker than other countries, there's still Canadians that are criticizing the government for moving too slow. I'm like, wow.
You're always going to get like people criticizing things. It's just human nature. Human nature will always criticize. Nothing's ever going to be perfect to anyone.
Right.
I still think that we did good stuff, and I still think that we did stuff poorly. Like, there's
okay. Share that. What do you think was done poorly?
Well, like, poorly, I think that we weren't as prepared as we thought, but we moved quicker to get prepared. It's just like PPE not being like not having your own manufacturing in your own country in case of a pandemic. Where, like, if China was still in an outbreak and they're the only ones that can make these masks, who's making the masks? You know what I mean?
I think that was an argument, irrespective of the pandemic. I mean, in Canada, like, industries that are obliterated since the late '80s, mid '80s, NAFTA and the restructuring of it, right? Like, so I think it's raised awareness that we are vulnerable. And if you think that, okay, and you want to believe the conspiracies that China is going to come out first with the vaccine and we're going to be heavily reliant on them, well, the question begs, like, why aren't we doing more here? And not just industry-wise and PPE-wise, but what about vaccines? Why are we so reliant on a superpower like China? Do we not have the capabilities? And yes, the cost is there, but, like, we're talking about lives too.
Yeah, and that's where the whole thing shoots back to the U.S. I feel like they're just, like, the lives are just being lost for no reason at this point. And, like, when I say they acted too slow, he didn't put a national shutdown for the whole country, which if he would have done that when he first did his stay at home for New York and New Jersey, just did the whole country and had the whole country back him, I think he wouldn't have hurt his election at all. I think he would have made it way better for him. And if he would have done that, they could think about opening up, like, because now it's running through all the states that didn't have cases,
right? Because
they were allowed to rally and do stuff. Like Nebraska, I think South Dakota was like 204% increase overnight last night. So, like, in cases, so, like, if he would have shut things down when he shut those, like, the governor shut the stay-at-home orders, like California and New York, if he would have just done a national shutdown, they could actually honestly think about opening up in some of the places that didn't get hit hard and have that economy running. But they're so far behind and so disorganized with the guy at the top that all he's doing is blaming Obama. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's Obama's fault and it's the governor's fault. Let's have a civil war.
Yeah, that's essentially what's happening, at least in the media anyways, right? I mean,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, there's Trump supporters out, and I get they have the right. They have the right to be out, but there's also, if he was out there sending a message to his supporters to stay home and we'll get through this, and if he would have done that earlier, they would all be thinking about going back to work in a week. But
Maybe so.
but now they're months off, or they're just going to let it wash over.
Let me play something for you because I find this to be interesting. Dan Crenshaw was on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. He's a American congressman, Republican from the state of Texas, and he has his own podcast. So it was the appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast that prompted me to take a look and check out his. His is called Hold These Truths with Dan Crenshaw. He's a former Navy SEAL military man. So he's currently a congressman. And I pulled up his one episode.
Did he say?
Go ahead.
Did he say something about Fox News and the media?
He's made appearances, on both sides. But he did an entire podcast on the hypocrisy of the Democrats and of the Republicans, and he tried to debunk some of the facts that they throw into the media. So I thought this was interesting. So I'm going to play a bit of this, and we'll come in back and forth to get some comments. Okay. So I started it up a little bit.
Okay.
It's really important because I want to make something clear throughout this podcast. As you hear me expose the hypocrisy of the left, I'm not actually blaming the left for this either. The same way I didn't blame the Obama administration for H1N1 or Ebola. Thousands and thousands of Americans died in H1N1. You didn't hear Republicans putting those deaths at the feet of President Obama. It would be easy to use very disingenuous arguments against the Obama administration and say, well, they lived through those disasters. They could have supplied us with more PPE, supplied us with more ventilators. They should have seen this coming. But that wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair. They didn't have the data to justify that. We can't always know what's going to happen. We have to, if we're going to criticize each other, we have to be able to do it objectively with the facts and data that were presented to people at the time of the decision.
So super interesting point there to me is that it certainly feels like since, especially with Trump in office, that there's been more vitriol against a president. Like there always is. There's always mudslinging and what have you. But Trump certainly gets more of it. And the point that he's trying to make here too is, okay, fair enough. It happens all the time, but where's the objective? It's just like it's not always backed by fact to me.
I agree with you. Like the media more asks him the questions and then he says something. Like the only thing that I think that he's actually said wrong and done wrong is attack Governor Cuomo. And when he said liberate Virginia, liberate Michigan, liberate Minnesota, like when he says stuff like that, he's asking for trouble and he's 180ing comments that he made. Regardless, like there's a lot of people that have blood on their hands for this, but like I don't think that like blaming him is something that the blue states are doing right now because that's what the media is just going at. Like the Democrats aren't making it a political thing anymore. They just want someone to step in. Like the federal government is taxpayers' money, right? So they want testing. Trump says he's not doing testing, even though he said he could give testing. There's so many different facts. It's like, I know it's not Trump's fault because he doesn't know how to handle it. But then again, if he keeps doing this little bullshit of tweeting at night and saying, and like getting in arguments with people, like you're not bringing the country together. Like under Obama, under Bush, which is a Republican, like 9/11, like Bush brought everyone together. Obama, I'm pretty sure at times like this, he would have took responsibility for any decision he made. And I'm pretty sure George W. Bush would have took any responsibility for any decision he made.
Katrina and like the criticism that Bush got for not reacting quickly enough.
Well, and that's the thing though, because we've never seen anything like that hit.
Kanye West?
Well, yeah.
George Bush doesn't like black people.
No. But
he
Trump doesn't either.
He startled the crap out of Mike Myers.
No, and like I said, no one ever, that's something Bush never seen. They never knew how to handle it. Same with the pandemic. But the thing with the pandemic is there was guidelines put in place. There was other things that were like that the U.S. was predicting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much stuff that we don't even know that happens in these rooms.
That's what I'm saying, right? So it's
like, I don't know. Who knows if Trump just said, "Fuck it, we're not paying for anything anymore. We're just going to line our pockets."
By the same token, because it's a 50, like argument can be opposed on two sides. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, it can be opposed on both sides. Like,
everybody's saying what Trump comes to his Twitter at night and calls people out, but what if that's justified? Because there's no sources out there covering the reality or the truths that he's faced with. Like, most of the coverage comes from the left-wing media, and that's all I'm trying to say. So here's finally a guy who has a show, who's in the inner circle. Granted, he's...
I have a question for you, though.
Sure.
How do you take Fox News handling all of this?
Well, by the same token, but the thing is, it's not necessarily okay. You have to have both sides, obviously, of the coverage, and they represented the other extreme. But I don't necessarily take that as the truth either. You've got to know both sides, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. And because most of media sources are left-wing media, it's like it's easy for everybody to adapt 10 out of 11 reports to be truthful because all of those guys have the same perspective. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
So I just wanted to hear this guy out, who is in fact a congressman, granted a Republican, but it just gives another take, and it just helps me to at least analytically think. All I'm saying is, if you're just taking everything that you hear at face value, it's like, don't forget to read the byline. Don't forget to read where it's from, because it's like, okay, if all you watch is CNN all day too, right? It's the same. If someone says to me, all you do is watch Fox, and I'm like, well, all you do is watch CNN. It's a moot point, and we're back to square one, right?
Usually, what happens if I see a clip and I'm like, did he actually say that? I'll go and find the actual interview and watch the whole thing, fact check it to see if they just cut out a piece to say, okay,
can you even trust your fact check sources? That's thing. It's like,
that's true. Who knows anymore?
It's like the internet has been.
Nobody's allowed to have an opinion.
You can, right? But it's just like, it's like. Here's the thing. I think I've said this to you about in sports, because we love talking sport. When we're talking the greatest, there's no win. There's no winner. You can't even have a winner because it's so subjective. But where I get entertainment now is how the person arrives at their decision, and then I judge you on that. I don't judge you on your answer.
Well, where I'm at with Trump is, I just think that he's corrupt. I think he's done more for him.
He's no different than anybody.
Yeah, well, I think he had his 4 years, and someone else needs 4 years of corruption.
So Biden's gonna win next.
Sleepy Joe? I don't know.
And it's funny because Trump had come out at one of his daily pressers, and he's like, well, how come Obama hasn't endorsed Biden? And I think 2 days later, Obama's up and he's like endorsing him now. So
yeah, because Obama and Trump don't get along.
Of course.
Considering that I thought Obama was one of the best presidents they had.
It's been totally lacking in our public discourse. It's been disgusting. And so I'm going to give you a timeline today of exactly what you need to know to battle back these false talking points. Let's start off with how the political media has been echoing Pelosi's talking points as well. Let's look at a few headlines. The Washington Post, 2 days ago on April 1st, the Washington Post ran a report titled 33 times Trump downplayed the coronavirus. Now, of course, they would have every right to run something like that, right? Because they've been sounding the alarm on coronavirus from the very beginning. Oh, wait, no, they haven't. Here's another headline from February 1st. Get a grip, America. The flu is a much bigger threat than coronavirus for now. Oh, that's interesting. Axios, same thing. Last month, ran an article about President Trump's delusional and possibly disastrous fixation with treating the coronavirus like just another winter flu. Here's the thing. Back on January 29th, Axios ran a story under the headline, "Why We Panic About Coronavirus But Not the Flu," which goes on to say that, quote, "Our newfound hypervigilance about infections might be more helpful if we could redirect some of it toward influenza, a significantly deadlier virus that strikes every year." CNN, your favorite news organization, they ran a story last month under the headline, "Trump finally takes the coronavirus emergency seriously." Well, CNN being so serious and so full of good news. Yeah. The thing is, they were much more concerned about what to actually call the virus. CNN's Jim Acosta went on television and said that President Trump calling the virus the Chinese coronavirus was, quote, going to come across to a lot of Americans as smacking of xenophobia. The amnesia must be especially strong with CNN because back in January, they had no problem calling it that, even tweeting on January 21st that a new Chinese coronavirus, a cousin of the SARS virus, has infected more than 200 people since the outbreak began in Wuhan, China in December. Look, the bottom line here is the media has been accusing President Trump of downplaying the coronavirus when they were telling Americans to, quote, get a grip over their fears about the virus.
See, what he did there is he led with the two.
He did what all left-wing media does.
Yeah, well, but listen, he led with the two, like, dumbest ones, like Washington Post and the other one about how they had bad articles. Then he went on to CNN, which was the big play up to. And CNN, all they did was just, they didn't do any bad information. It was the Chinese virus. That's what he was going on about. So I see what he did for the right wing and what he did for Republicans there. But I also see, like, if you're listening to it closely, like, okay, Washington Post, yeah, you fucked up. The second one, I can't remember what he said, but they fucked up. CNN, you made a mistake. The president, does he make mistakes? He fucks up words.
Of course he does.
So, like, I get it, Dan Crenshaw. Like, I understand. You make a valid point. But you could do the opposite with Fox News. Has Fox News not fucked up? Does he not talk about Fox News? See, you know what I'm getting at? It's just a big...
No, he will. I mean, there are criticisms, too.
Okay.
And not in this one.
President Trump for comparing the coronavirus to the flu when they did so themselves. And the media accused the president of not taking the coronavirus seriously when the one thing they were most seriously concerned with was what we should call the virus, ignoring their own hypocrisy. And again, the reality is, at these places in time, this was the data that we all had. It was. And a little bit of grace would be nice.
Okay, fair enough. I'll stop with that there. But
you know what? And I do give him grace, but, like, it's not like, okay. See, the problem I have is, like, give him grace, but the way he acts, you can't give him grace. He comes out and says, I've done an excellent job. I've done this. I've done that. There'd be more people dead if I didn't act. Well, you know what? I get that, but take responsibility for what you haven't done. That's all people wanted from the start. And then this wouldn't have got to where it is. He just didn't want to take responsibility because it's an election year. Like, if everyone has to be honest about it, like, I get it. We gave him some grace. Like, he's had about a month to take responsibility or to step up and do stuff. But everywhere he turns, there's a lie. Mm-hmm. It's just like he's at the CDC with a Make America Great hat. And he says I'm pretty sure it was February, he goes, anyone who wants a test can go get a test. We've got thousands and millions of tests. We're doing a good job. I know everything about this stuff. Like, so, you know, he just played a game of golf. He came to the CDC. He says that shit. Like, and I get that. And then you go in, like, and I get that you want to give him a grace period. Like, like, in all honesty, Neil, if he would have came out and said, like, my biggest problem is this prick isn't taking responsibility. For anything. Like, well, and if he actually stepped up and said, I can't get the testing done. I need the governors and the federal government, because the taxpayers pay the federal government. If they could get some way to do the testing so they could reopen the country to get the trace testing and everything. But now he's just all of a sudden said, it's going to cost too much money. We're probably going to fuck it up. We're going to leave it on the governors. They can fuck it up. And then we'll blame the blue, like, blah, 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 whatever. Like, blue states, red states. Just a big game. And, like, someone's just got to step up and say, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take responsibility whether it wins or loses. You know what I mean?
So here, let's bring it back to national politics, Canadian national politics, and it's no secret that Alberta, clashes with federal and the Prime Minister, and they took it on their own hands to shut things down earlier, and therefore they were really able to plank the curve of the coronavirus. And it was Rob Ford on Friday announced that because of the current measures, they had to extend until sometime into May. But Alberta stepped up and has been sending PPE and ventilators to BC, Ontario, Quebec having the most cases. So what I find interesting is Alberta can go and defy, and by implementing stricter measures, and they could easily been sat back and said, okay, well, we did the right thing and we got a surplus and we're not going to help you because we're righteous and we did the right thing. But they didn't. They understood that it was a humanitarian effort, a nationwide effort, and they're sharing their excess.
Yeah, and it's
such a contrast to the American situation.
It's what being Canadian is. Canadians, you're going to help each other out across the board. Like, Quebec's in trouble, we help them. Like, it's just, and the thing is it's like the politics is different. Like, when it comes to Canada, there is no red, there is no blue, there is no orange, there is no Green Party or whatever you want to call it, or it's just everybody doesn't care at that point. They just want to move forward with what's the best way.
Yeah, especially in like something as critical as this. This is beyond politics.
Oh, big time.
What's your take on how well Ford has reacted, and also your thoughts on how Trudeau has reacted?
In all honesty, I think Trudeau has done, I hate to say it, he's done a decent job, except for speaking moistly to people. That could have been his biggest downfall so far. But then again, don't give that guy a microphone without notes.
Yeah, he's
not very good. I think Ford's actually stepped up and become a leader. Like, I think a lot of people are shocked at what he's done, and I'm proud that he's running Ontario. Like, he's out there with the people. He's out doing what he needs to do. He's not hiding away, trying to hide away from questions. I think he's actually doing a better job than Andrew Scheer, the opposition, and the same person in his party. I think Andrew Scheer's done a lot of terrible things and said a lot of dumb things. I think he's gone a lot like Dalton McGuinty, if we remember that prick. And then, but Doug Ford, I think he's done a great job, and I think that him going to help seniors, because you look at the relief package and everything they've done everything for small businesses, students, regular middle class people, but they haven't even come up with a package for our seniors that paved the way. And now he's focused on long-term care homes for seniors. And I think it's amazing that he's doing that, because these are the people that built this country.
Yeah. I think that's where the business acumen comes from. And he's acting politically, using his political resources, but bringing that business mindedness to equate some fair decisions. And I really respect that. Just the small things where you see him lending his truck and distributing PPE himself in street clothes.
Yeah, because
what I don't get is I don't understand why Trudeau is still in isolation after his wife has been cleared.
Maybe his barber lives with him. That's what got him in his hair.
I know. It's just like my point is this. It's like, you got to believe that. Okay, if the leaders in your country should have instill some confidence by going around and being out there and doing a press conference at Parliament. You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's
like, if something
danced around it.
Like Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister. Yeah. Okay, they put him in ICU. They took care of him and they got him well. Like, I would hope at the top level, if Trudeau got exposed to something, but the guy's got to be places and meet with people, I would think.
Yeah.
To see your prime minister in his cottage or at
Yeah,
the residence.
I don't think what he did was like he's telling us to social distance, and he goes out and enjoys a day with his kids at the cottage or whatever. And then you see Ford burning up his own gas, moving equipment, making sure people are safe. Like if there was to be an election and Ford ran against him, I'm pretty sure Ford would win.
Well, I think you make a great point tonight, and that is Rob Ford should be he should be the head of the PC party moving forward. I wonder if they'll give that any thought. But
well, like I said, I think Scheer's kind of put his foot in his mouth. I know he's doing.
Well, he's on his way. They've already announced that he's not going to lead the party moving forward, anyways. So.
Thank God. What? Not that I'm a PC. I'm neutral to anything.
Yeah.
No.
This is all archived now. We can go back to the old podcast.
Well, yeah, the NDP. I just don't know what have they done in this whole situation. Have you heard anything from the NDP party?
But they're not in. They're not. But you look to the leadership though. Like, what are you going to do?
Oh, I think Andrea Horvat is one of the best. Like, I think she's really good at her job. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that they have the backing in other areas. And it's like I said, it's all about politicians. If you have the better politicians and you can win the areas, the tight areas, and you can do good. I just think that party had a big opportunity to take a big step forward with the last election, and there was opportunities missed, I guess, because the Liberals only got 7 seats.
Yeah, fair enough.
They can all drive together in a Dodge minivan.
It just, I don't know. Too many parties here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can argue that, but I mean, when you got 5, 6 of them, and 4 of them are on the left and 2 are on the right, the odds are against you anyway. So
that's true.
So I wanted to discuss. I'll go back to sharing here, and it goes back to the conspiracy of the coronavirus, and a lot of people will say that it's a bio warfare. It's a war, but it arguably not worse than a physical war, but because it's invisible, it's fear. It's fear-based. Fear is sensationalized. People are arguing that we should go back. Other people are saying that we should tighten up even more. But how are you, and when you feel, let's say that Prime Minister Trudeau said, we are creating an order that requires you to have a device, and we're going to start tracking your smartphones, because that's what they're doing in the Israeli government. That's what they approved. They're using cell phone data to track locations of people that are infected, and now they're going to basically track it's become a surveillance state, just like China and 5G.
Yeah, so they're saying, like, now here's the thing. You might get away with, there's so many different avenues I can go down with this, but if someone's infected and they're if they don't get a curve on this and it's going for another full year, they might have to do this just to keep people honest. Because there's people that are asymptomatic that could get the virus maybe once, maybe twice, and not feel anything and just keep passing it to other people. But then again, if you ever brought this up to Americans, there'd be civil unrest for sure.
Well, that's it. I mean, here's another article, Wall Street Journal. Okay, here's how Apple and Google plan to track the coronavirus through your phone. Again, it's GPS tracking systems, reading different things like, I believe, temperature, etc., hotspots, and identifying and tracking. And what they'll always use, it'll always be under the guise of your safety. Right?
Yeah, that's how they'll present it, and then it'll be used.
Yeah, it's always survival, and it's like, okay, well, whatever you got to do, I don't care if I have to exchange my privacy and my freedom.
Then we all become sheep.
Well, and that's what, and so I'll go back to this. This is what, when we were preparing, this is exactly what we were talking about is tenocracy. So a government of or social system that is controlled or influenced by experts in science or technology, the fact of a government or social system being influenced by such experts. So what I'm alluding to here is Bill Gates has been in the news, and actually in fall of last year, September, October, they created this event called Event 201, a global pandemic exercise. And basically have you seen the movie Contagion?
No, I don't want to watch it. It's a bad time
everything
to
that's what's
watch
going on
that.
right now. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation their leading mandate is to vaccinate, especially the poorer countries, to make sure that children and populations get vaccinated for, even the most basic of
Red measles,
viruses.
whatever.
Yes, exactly. But people are questioning, and he did go on the air a couple days ago to share his take on it. But there are people out there that are accusing him of, trying to create a surveillance state, a technocracy, because it is these experts that are coming together and deriving and creating these different things between vaccines and so on, and tracking systems. And you could say this is the perfect storm and perfect time to institute that, because there's countries that are coming out and saying, basically, we're not going back to normal until everybody's vaccinated. You're not able to fly unless you're vaccinated. Your phones, like China, there's millions of cameras under this 5G networking, and they've instituted what's called a social credit score. So they watch every move of yours, and if you post something that's irresponsible to them or unacceptable, you will not be able to fly. You will not be able to use their social media, like their messenger apps and so on.
This is where I think that this virus was man-made, and they're trying to push this upon their government so they can rule everything easier. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many ways you can look at these conspiracy theories. Like, it's so hard to believe what's actually really happening, because people with absolute power will do absolute anything.
Sure.
Because if you can do it, why not do it? And it's easier than rigging an election, because if you can understand which people are being a problem to you, you can easily fix it.
Right. Here, I'm going to play exactly what it was. But they simulated, back in October 2019, they ran a simulation in New York.
Events are getting more and more disruptive to health and to economy. And the reason we called it Event 201 is we knew eventually one of those days, one of those events would be the big one. And that big one would really challenge our capacity to respond. And to respond to the big one, we do need to have all hands on deck.
So they created a disease. They made mock news reports and so on. And they simulated it because it was to raise awareness that nobody...
Participants are confronted by a hypothetical scenario that presents to them the challenges of a response. So we will say, here's a hypothetical disease outbreak. This is the way it might be evolving. And these are some of the challenges that you'll see that you'll have to address to address the disruptions that you're seeing to your healthcare system or to your organization.
It's like a workshop.
Yeah. With Bill and Melinda Gates, Bloomberg, etc., all these various corporate sponsors. Here's a little bit more from the actual organizers. Let me just play this.
It began in healthy-looking pigs, months, perhaps years ago. A new coronavirus spread silently within herds. Gradually, farmers started getting sick. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died. Experts agree, unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic, an outbreak that circles the globe and affects people everywhere.
The mission of the Pandemic Emergency Board is to provide recommendations to deal with the major global challenges arising in response to an unfolding pandemic. The board is comprised of
We have known about CAPS-like viruses in animals and people for decades, but have not been successful at developing a licensed vaccine. And sure, there are new technologies that may help, but it's going to be difficult. I am not optimistic about having a vaccine in time to be relevant during this pandemic.
Okay. So, I mean, October 2019.
How do you
nail it? How do you know what I mean?
Yeah. These people are probably sitting back going, I fucking knew it. I tried to tell everybody and nobody cares.
More like,
we hit
the jackpot. I think it's more like we hit the jackpot. It's time.
Bill Gates warned everyone on TED Talk in 2016, I think.
Yep.
Like, there's been warnings. Like, it's like Obama did leave stuff in place for this, the new administration. They just, at the time, it was like, let's make cuts here and there. Just maybe bad choices at the time. But, like I said, you can't, I just hate how he blames Obama. So sad.
If it wasn't the pandemic, it would have been the economy anyways.
Yeah, that's politics. Let's leave it at that. I'll keep the emotion out of it.
There was, so this was interesting as well. There was a large crash in the market, not the actual markets, but the repo or the repurchase markets, which basically is trading paper for let's see here. Let me play this. Let's give you an explanation first. And then there was a market crash in September of 2019 that prompted basically large-scale quantitative easing by the governments, trillions of dollars injected into the market. Very low-key, because it wasn't like, your big-name stuff. It was the lending of money in the background for businesses and banks, et cetera, to do market trading. And then I have a list, you've probably seen it, of like dozens of CEOs leaving or quitting or resigning from their companies, coincidentally in 2019. And it's just very suspect.
And just like the plumbing in your home, well, I'm likely to think about how it operates.
Yeah, it's very suspect that they all, within the same year,
knew that something was coming.
Like they were all given a heads up. Listen, this is what's going to happen. We're headed for a crash, so on and so forth. And then now there's conspiracy theorists and others, journalists, trying to make coincidence of the coronavirus with the market crash and the resignation of all these CEOs as an explanation to, okay, it's a cover-up. This was going to happen anyways, or it was manufactured to happen. And now let's have the coronavirus as a reason to attach it to human emotion and to the general population. And then it's like, okay, and whatever.
Nobody even thinks about this.
Yeah, then it's like pin it on the coronavirus, not on the repo market crash of September 2019 and whatever, right? Because we were headed for it. I mean, the economy and unemployment has been on highs, historical highs for a long time, and nothing was giving. No one could foresee in 2008 quantitative easing. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, wrote many books, and he predicted in 2016 there was going to be a crash. But
there was a slight.
But it didn't happen exactly. It happened in 08, 09, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody jumped on him, and he's on recent interviews talking about this, and he's like, well, I didn't know there was going to be billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars injected into the market to save face, so it's still coming, right? And his analogy is like he was always a surfer, so he said big waves come in threes, and they increasingly get larger. So the first one was .com savings and loan crash, and then the Great Recession, and then now probably what they're going to call this one the Great Depression. So let me just play this one quickly for you to set the stage for what I'm talking about.
Until something goes wrong with it. So you'd be forgiven if you had no idea just how important the repo market was until you started hearing about all the issues with it in the financial news last year. But this is a market that has a turnover of $1 to $2 trillion per day. So it's pretty big. Repo stands for repurchase agreement and is basically a form of short-term borrowing where securities, and especially government securities, are used as collateral. The reason it's called a repurchase agreement rather than just a collateralized loan is down to the way the transaction is done. Essentially, the repo market is like a huge pawn shop. That's pawn with a W. So let's say you have Bank A, which is holding a lot of cash, more than they need, and you have Bank B that has some treasury bonds but needs to raise cash. In a repurchase agreement, Bank B will sell its treasury bonds to Bank A, but the agreement will state that Bank B will repurchase the treasury bonds back from Bank A at a later point in time for a higher price. This is usually overnight or within 48 hours, but it can sometimes be longer. Now, since Bank B is buying the treasuries back for a higher price, the difference between the price it sold them for and the price it buys them back for is the equivalent of paying interest for borrowing the money. This implied interest is known as the repo.
So basically, they're talking about short-term overnight loans for trillions of dollars. One bank with excess allowing another bank a loan so that they can operate, do purchase and sell, make short-term money themselves, and then they have to buy back their bonds, and everybody's happy. One side's made a quick profit, the other side hopefully made a bigger one. But what happened was in September, basically there was various taxes that were due that the banks had to pay. There was a shortage of funds available because of that, and it was also a crunch time for other banks needing to acquire these loans and then put them into the market. So that created this crash, and then the feds had to step in and inject some quantitative easing, just like in the 2008. But this is like a backside. It's not like your Dow Jones or your Nasdaq or anything like that. So because of the lack of it, the general population is not going to have an understanding because they're not the big players in the repo market, and therefore you're not going to have an interest in it, right? It's just like what's going on in the background that helps everything to run and operate. So I have this list. Hold on, I'll come back to stop sharing here. And I'm wondering if it's not a coincidence that Bill Gates stepped down as a CEO from Microsoft, David Abney from UPS, the CEO from Disney, MasterCard, Salesforce, Uber Eats, JCPenney, MGM's, Aurora Cannabis, Hulu, LinkedIn. All these guys stepped away as executives of their respective companies.
What's your thought on that, though? Do you think that they were doing it because they were trying to cash out, or were they trying to just bunker down?
I think they had firsthand knowledge or a heads up of this, or it was shortly thereafter, or they knew, some of them may have known that it was coming, and it was like, okay, we don't want to be operating this because the plan was rolled out and we know about it, and I don't want to take responsibility, and I'm getting out before the fit hits the shan, right? Like, I just think, like, okay, I'm trying to present this non-crazy way, the way that Alex Jones and Dave Icke and these other conspiracy theorists present these things. It's all hearsay information. I'm just showing it. But it's like you can't not overwhelmingly connect the dots and think like there's something going on here. That's all. I'm not saying it's true. It's not my information or research, but it makes you wonder, like, there's a lot more going on than just this guy got the coronavirus from a wet market and all of a sudden it ended up in a retirement home in Haldeman and
I don't
Stony Creek. Like, how the hell does that happen?
I don't buy it.
Airborne.
I buy it that I think it was man-made. For what reasons, I'm not sure. But I have a feeling it was
economic
and maybe Who knows? Maybe it is a slow. Maybe it's it's supposed to wash over. Who knows?
Well, nobody knows. But when you don't know and when the missing information is there, what you try to piece together is you look at certain groups and their mandate, and then you see what's going on, and you try to tie two and two together, right? So, anyways, been exposed to and listening to a lot, because actually a lot of the influencers and educators that I listen to, they can't help but report on coronavirus and different things about the economy. So it's just topical news.
Yeah.
It's what everybody's on. It's on their mind, because if you're stuck in your house for the next 2 months, 4 months total, 5 months total, I think you want legitimate explanations as to why, right?
Well, yeah, and if you don't have anything to do, you have the time to figure out and fact check yourself and come to a decision for yourself what's going on.
Well, I'm just like trying to hunt down information. That's just what I'm used to doing. There's other people that sit back and just get fed the information. And I just have like a serious problem with that, is like, especially when people sit back, they just take in the information and then they just start to share that. And I'm like, what, did you take any time to look at any other sources at all, or critically think about it? Or did you just straight hearsay and then you just spit it out and you just hope you just get everybody emotional and on the same page as you are? I'm like, I can't stand that.
No, and I agree with you with that 100%. That's why I sent you that video last night, and I laughed. The guy at the end, he's like, "Did you?"
There's the reporter for
Jordan Klepper
at the yes, Jordan Klepper at the it was like a Trump convention, Trump 2020 convention, right?
Yeah, small story short, he's going to the guy, "Did you read the transcript?" He's like, "No, but you can't be a sheep. You got to go out there and get the information for yourself."
Yeah,
he's like, "Don't let people tell you what to think." He's like, "So did you read the transcript?" He's like, "No, don't be a sheep."
And then he's like, any idea why Obama, was neglectful during 9/11?
Yeah. He wasn't even in office.
No, that was definitely funny, right? And
but you could do, like you said, you could do the left. You can do
it
left
on either side, and like that's what I mean. Like what frustrates me though is it's overwhelmingly left. So I feel like most of the people you're going to talk to, and like I said, I judge based on how you arrive at your conclusion, not your conclusion. Okay, fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion, but how you got there. So.
Well, see, I haven't read the transcript. I don't know that. I don't care how he got into office. It's just, what are you going to do when you're there? You're going to have...
Yeah, that's it.
You're going to have a nap? You're going to just take your time and not make any decisions? You're not going to take responsibility? Or you're going to do... You
got to do some kind of... Yeah,
you're the commander-in-chief, bud.
That's right. Well, and I was going to say to that point, you're not going to satisfy everybody, and it's probably one of the worst times to be in office, because most of the time at the end of the day, you're going to be judged on how the economy's doing, right? While you're in office.
I don't think it really matters right now.
Well, if you're in now, like, you're always going to have a demographic of people that are just not going to be happy because, acted too fast, not fast enough. You're going to get everything.
Yeah.
You can't win at this time, right?
No.
That being said, I will predict, I do think Trump will win again in the general election. I don't think Biden will be able to.
I agree with you, but I hope not. I don't know. I just think that he fumbled way too much. But then again, you don't know who's rigging what or who's doing what down there. I'm just glad I'm not a part of it.
Interestingly enough, I have, I guess a lot of us have family in the States, and you talk to them, and I have a friend in South Florida, and he's like, Canadians hate Trump more than Americans do. So if you believe what you see in the news, you think every American, like it's a country of 90-10. Well, how could that be true if he won? So, you watch that spoof video that you sent me. I'm like, yeah, he picked like the dumbest people there. So, but I don't think that represents most of America at this point, right? So.
No, and I agree too. I just like I said, you can play it both ways, but I still think that that like even with the voting, like there's so many different avenues. Like the Republicans are like, you can't do mail-in voting during the pandemic. You can't do like online voting. You have to go and vote. So people lined up and voted, and it backfired. Like there's just so much weird shit happening.
One,
it comes down to politics,
fraud and cheating, and the other one has proven to fail anyways, which is the in-person voting. So, but again, there you go. Arguments for both sides.
You know what? The only good thing that's going to come of all this, and I hope good comes from it, is that people will get off their ass and actually fucking have a mind, read, and find out what you believe in and what you want to vote for, and make a fucking vote, because nobody votes. When 50% of a nation votes, and then they all sit back right now and they're complaining about who got in, because the Democrats probably could have got in if all of them got off their ass and voted. You know what I'm saying? That's just just like our politics. Like when people are like, they're bitching about the government, the first question I always ask them, did you vote? No. Then shut the fuck up. You don't have a voice if you don't vote. Voting is your voice. Even if you vote and lose, you can bitch and complain. But when you bitch and complain about the government doing this, the government doing that, or this, and you don't vote, then you're not participating. So if you're not participating, you can't have a voice. It's just common sense.
You've probably never seen the George Carlin bit that he chooses not to vote because he doesn't want to be responsible. So he makes the exact opposite argument of what you said.
Yeah, I know.
Because if you do vote, you are actually responsible. It depends on which way you want to take it, right? If you don't vote, you're not responsible because you didn't have a hand in it.
Yeah, but you know what? Either way, you're going to get screwed. And that's the thing with voting. You can vote whatever party you want. You're still going to get bent over and screwed for a few dollars.
I think we can all agree. It seems like what's rolling out of this is, irrespective of who's in, like, again, people aren't going to be happy, but I don't know. I just think it's all staged. I believe the conspiracies,
Yeah, so do I.
It's not easy. I don't think the actual truths are out there for us to know.
No. It's like National Treasure, the President's Book. Wouldn't someone want to see that,
To be
Nicolas Cage.
Right?
Oh!
Feels good to be back. Feels good to be on the air. Now we've got the video show, Podcast and Chill show on YouTube, and Podcast and Chill, of course, on iTunes, Stitcher, and anywhere else you get podcasts. Hit the subscribe button, send us your comments, and join us again. I've got a full lineup. I try to release stuff almost every day, either podcast or on YouTube. But Adam, thanks very much, man, for coming back on. It's great to see you. We can't be together, but this is the next best thing.
Oh, yeah. Be safe, buddy.
You too. Be safe. Everybody, thanks very much for listening. I salute you guys. We love you. Thanks very much for tuning in, and look out for us. We'll be back. I'll be back with Chris this week with more follow-up and topical news. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.